Hey, and welcome back to Ranless C2. We're starting once again in London, preparing our ship for departure. So, going through some of the usual stuff, looking at any crews that have come in, trying to just decide what stuff to offload from our last trip. I got some ostentatious treasures. I also got myself finally a move in the Great Game. And it's just like, is it worth spending now? But I don't quite have the terror to make it worth getting a tattoo just yet. So instead, it's let's talk to the Admiral, let's sell off our port reports, let's get things sorted. One thing I do is realize that I didn't buy a will, and that's pretty risky. I've got a whole lot of heirlooms kind of stacked up, and I really need to remember that I can use them because they make a pretty significant difference to what I can do when I start a new character. I really haven't taken full advantage of them here, but I don't want to lose my mansion and I don't want to lose basically my stuff. So that's why I'm buying the heirloom. I also make a shrine to stone because I've got the required materials, and I think I would prefer the 7 hearts and the item for the auxiliary slot more than I would keeping the individual components. So I do that, and then it's kind of time to head off. Before I head off, it's important to kind of review what else I've got. So I check here mostly just to check where I'm meant to be going for the Admiralty. And the Admiralty says, hey, command canal. And that's really convenient. That's the easiest possible Admiralty mission that you can get. So that's definitely something I want to do on this trip. I'm also trying to make sure that I keep 200 echoes of cash around, just because I want to be able to buy Sphinxstone, and that requires a 200 echo deposit. So it's kind of, alright, where do I want to go? This is like my typical planning stage. So the plan here is go to Lower Barnett, go to basically go to the closest ports and head south and kind of fill in the map. And obviously stop off at the command canal because that way I can get the strategic intelligence. So first port is the newest port. I can just dive down and head to Lower Barnett. One of the things is there's no something awaiting you at port to worry about here, so there's no point in not just stopping there first. That said, don't think I remembered that. So I thought that was the first stop, but actually the first stop is Hunter's Keep, which means I kind of wait around, because there's no point in stopping in Hunter's Keep really without at least something awaits your port. So this is the awkward dance of I arrived too early, so I'm waiting for something to happen before I dock. And then I can have lunch, and lunch is useful because it gets the attention of the gods, it gets you items, and drops your terror. It's good to take advantage of it while I can, because the sisters are not around forever. So now I've done that, I can head down to Lower Barnett. And again, there's no real point in waiting for something to arrive at port, because something awaits you at port, or whatever it is, because basically there's nothing random I can do, or no real random events I can take part in here. Instead, I want, really, when I'm here, I want port reports from other undersea locations, so I can tell tall stories, and but it's always worth getting at least the port report. So explore the church and then basically pop off. There's nothing else I can really do because I don't have enough progress in this storyline. So off we go, and the next stop is Mutton Island. Although I do stop, of course, and fight a crab, because Mutton Island has a bunch of crabs around it. It's really kind of annoying. But here we go. At least the crabs are worth fragments, and they're super easy to kill. They'll get easier as I get better stuff. And why not take advantage of that while I can? And yeah, Quaker's Haven. Get to grab ourselves just primarily the port report there, and then it's on to Command Canal. And here, again, I don't have very much to do here. It's listen for surface gossip, get the least valuable port report in the game, but primarily fulfill the Admiralty Commission, which strategic information is really helpful. It boosts my standing with the Admiralty, which is kind of useful. But also, I should, after a couple of these, start being able to get spies, and then I can do cool, like, establishing spy network stuff. And once I'm done here, it's just like the primary objective here. Make sure I haven't missed any islands. Just kind of clear up my knowledge of the sea on the way to Visage. The idea is to kind of go there and head in, do a little bit more at Visage. Nothing much happens here, so I'm just basically going to skip ahead to Visage. I just like to try and keep that map as explored as possible in the areas that have been. Make sure I haven't missed anything important, but also just it looks better. I don't really have a better excuse than that. I prefer a visible map than one with these black splotches in it. So I'll see you at Visage. And here we are, just coming into Visage. Now I've gone around the whole island, we can really see that huge mask mountain, which is pretty awesome to look at. I mean, it is definitely an island that is designed to be seen from the air, which not many people can do in the setting, but I mean, it's still pretty cool to see. And actually, on reflection, you can see most of the things that are mentioned in the story on the island, which is a neat feature that I haven't really noticed before. And here it's just, again, the standard stuff of getting the port report, but also retreading my steps on the island. I'd never really been back to Visage before, and I didn't really expect that you could get an incredibly valuable item every time you went there, and indeed you can't. But there's definitely more to explore. I think I've always done the frog mask, so here I got to do some stuff with the locust mask, which is much more Veils based, so it's totally expected that you will steal things, or at least it seems to be. So that's definitely something that my character is all about doing anyway, because stealing things gets you more stuff. So that's kind of nice to have. Getting our hands on scrolls and nothing that's really particularly enlightening or anything. And then we do that same trading our mask with a moon moth. Strange how there always seems to be one that wants to trade their mask at this time, and it's then just doing the same stuff that I did last time, but it doesn't result in a ritual, so I don't get another fantastic artifact. What was it? I actually can't remember the right name for it at the moment, but you know. So it's not quite as profitable as the first time we went, but it was still worth doing and interesting to read through. We definitely, visiting the face and just looking through the geometer's house. I really think that we should. I think one of the things I kind of miss is with this approach to a Let's Play is that I don't really have the opportunity to properly read these stories, but it's definitely worth checking out. I would really like any feedback anyone can give me on this compared to my initial Sunless approach. The advantage of this is I can record a lot more easily. And so now I'm doing, again, that same exploration. One thing I noticed that I hadn't noticed before, so I'm heading straight for the Isle of Cats. But one thing I had not noticed before is the channel. There's actually a new port in the Reef of Roses that is marked on my map, but I hadn't seen the first time round. So that's an underwater port that we missed. So first we head over to the Isle of Cats and interact with that, but then I think we're going to head to the Reef of Roses. Here we are, Port Cavendish, and here I decide, you know what, everything's expensive here. Do I want to? But I've got a lot of supplies. Maybe I can get rid of them. If I'm going to go to the if we're going to head up to the Sphinxstone, I need 20 hull for, oh, not hull, 20 cargo space free, because Sphinxstone, you put down a deposit of 200 echoes and you get 20 cargo space worth of stone. So that's half my hold. I actually, when I initially leave, I can't afford to go there because I've taken too much in by way of supplies. I'm always kind of gearing up to go as long as I can, because the port reports are really what make most of my journey worthwhile. Nothing else. It's the port reports that also come with money and fuel. And in fact, by the time I'm done handing in the port reports, that's about a quarter of my cargo filled. Sunless is not based around trading, really. There are some profitable trade routes, but they're fairly marginal, and you need a big ship and a good starting amount of money to take advantage of them. So here is the undersea tobacconist. I don't quite get why you'd set up a shop selling cigars underwater, but he's trying to perfect the underwater underwater smoke for some reason. And his assistant has gone missing. He was sent on an errand. It was either in the Empire of Hands or Tomb Colonies, so he's asked us to go and see him because he's not interested in dealing with anyone at this time. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave, and at some stage we'll get either to the Tomb Colonies. Hopefully he's there, because the Empire of Hands is generally on the eastern edge of the map, and we just don't really have the stuff for me to want to head up there. So now we're done with that, it's just time to start back. We're about halfway through our journey, so we'll go north and investigate up this way, see if we missed anything. But also we've got another undersea port to go to. We've got Rack up there, and then the salt lines potentially. It'll all depend on how much space we've got left in our hold. In fact, you can see I just checked the hold capacity. I need to burn a fair amount of fuel and supplies before I get to the salt lines. So maybe, basically what I'm thinking at this point is maybe I should explore a little to the east of the salt lines before I head there. Because ideally I want to hit there with at most 20 space left in my hold capacity. So here we are. We'll head down to Rack. Again, I don't know what actually allows me to trigger most of the stories in Rack. So I don't really do that much here other than grab the port report. There seems to be some stuff to do with I need to work out how to get a relationship with the king, but I don't seem to have any obvious lead on how to do that. There is something about following an echo here, which is about selling songs, and maybe that's kind of what we need to do. But we'd need to find some songs first, and I haven't, that's new content along with the Zubmariner. One thing I noticed here though is fuel and supplies sell for more than they cost back in London. So I think I may even end up selling some supplies here. I don't remember, but it's something that definitely am keeping in mind for the future, because it's not a bad way to, if I'm overshooting, which I have, not a bad way to kind of lighten my load and pick up a little bit more cash, which is good because I'm not losing any money doing that. I'm deliberately shortening what I can do on the journey, but not really losing anything by it. And then here we can actually see just how close Rack and the salt lines are, because that's the lower salt line above us. They are right next to each other. And I'm risking a little bit more time in the water. I think I'm a little bit overly paranoid traveling underwater. And I think it's just because we got utterly wrecked when the Constant Companion showed up. And I'm not confident enough in my ship at this time. I want to get a better ship before I do extensive undersea exploration. and a better cannon, and another cannon, maybe an aft cannon, just all of the cannons. I don't like it. I don't want people to be able to do much. So here we head over to the port, and we can visit the Unmaker. Because we've got Salt's attention, we can do Salt's rights. At the very least, we can, get the port report and grab something awaits you here. But I'm not entirely sure which I end up doing, other than the report. That was a no-brainer, because Salt's rights uses up something awaits you, so I kind of have to decide. So that's what I did. So it does let us get a implication, it's a valuable item. So I need to remember to sell it. I think I have a tendency to keep a hold of some valuable things a little bit too long, but because I don't have the whole space just yet, I think it's time for a little bit more exploration. And yeah, that was a random event where you've got a sign on the ceiling, and that's something that is not what I want to investigate. And here I'm trying to work out if I can avoid the jellyfish or if I should fight it. It's costing me terror because I basically want to fight mostly with the lights off. And I'm just trying to... if I can keep my distance enough, it shouldn't be able to keep track of me with veils. So that's why I keep heading away, and I'm just trying to keep it at the very edge of my firing circle. But the problem with this thing is it's reasonably fast. And this is my general approach. I don't have lights, unfortunately, on, because they make it much easier for things to spot you, and it's much better to just have the thing be dead. But so I generally only turn the lights on right at the end of a fight. So the Gillifleur are actually slightly more interesting once you've been to Visage, because apparently the way they look when they die looks remarkably like that mask. So you actually get a different option when you kill one off. And so yeah, just doing a little bit more exploration. I'm actually kind of on the seam between two map chunks, which is not ideal because you can actually avoid exploring that way. Which is why I turned left, right? Because I needed to make sure I was doing that, and I decided, yeah, why not? Let's go underwater. Let's see what we can find under here. So that's what we're doing now. We're just gonna do a quick peek underwater. Again, I don't think it's a very long trip here because I'm just not too keen on getting sunk. Yeah, and see here, I chicken out. So you know what? Actually, I just don't want to lose the ship. I don't want to restart. Restarting is punishing enough. Let's just go to the funging station. Which was this the first time I actually made it there? Was this a new port? I don't quite remember. Maybe it'll bring up the map. The funging station is Demo Island. It's one of the first islands that came up. I think it's got a pretty great name, and it's pretty good to just get compile a port report. The island itself, you can choose between a safe and predictable option, which is T with the factor, which will get you supplies, or this one, which is Rad Corsairs. So exploring the island gives you just a random event, and there's a whole host of them. But this has not put me in a good way. Yeah, I'm now much lighter on hull space, but I've only got 2 supplies. And I'm now kind of worried that my crew are going to starve before I get back. And that is not a situation you want to find yourself in, right? We've got a little bit more time with starvation than with fuel, because you can see in the top left corner our hunger gauge, right? That hunger gauge, when it fills halfway, you consume a supply. But it basically can go all the way if you've got no supplies left. But what I'm hoping here is basically to rob this ship and try and stick outside of its firing arc, and then hopefully they will have something useful in the supplies. So fortunately they're relatively easy pickings. They're the easiest pirate to destroy, and we got wine, which I have to say was not what I'd hoped for. But here, yeah, I'm gonna get down pretty low, and I think I've got enough time to get back without the crew mutinying, because they will basically. You get some interesting options potentially when you are that low on supplies, but I don't really want to engage in those kinds of acts, and so it's just trying to gauge it. I really don't want to return home empty-handed though. I really want that Sphinxstone. That's why we're going. So that was like one of the goals. It's why I left with the amount of money I did, and that if I don't come back with Sphinxstone, I kind of I'd feel like I wasted some of the potential of the trip. So we'll grab that, and then I think we'll just turn straight back. Visit the Unmakers, which I was hoping to get supplies. I couldn't quite remember if you did. But here we go, we got our 20 Sphinxstone. And yeah, if I had a bigger ship, this is one of the easiest ways to make a decent starting amount of money, right? You get yourself a couple of hundred echoes together, and then you do that. And that 200 echoes turns into 500 echoes. And then if you've got the hull space, which I literally do not on this ship, you can potentially end up getting multiple lots, and each of those is worth 500. There's a limited number of times you can do this storylet, so it will run out. But if you have a big ship and enough like seed money, you can do multiple loads at the same time and only increment the story once, so you can get more money that way. And here we go. I think I'm trying to avoid this ship because the label hasn't come up, and if it turns out to be easy pickings, no, it is not easy pickings. It is not worth the time at this point to actually continue the fight, because if I basically run out of time, then the crew's gonna kill me. So the next step is stop at Mutton Island. I think at this point, if I were to run into a crab, I would butcher it because that reduces hunger. But I've still got one supply, so I've effectively got 2 supply worth of time to resolve this problem. And I'm really close to London, so I'll be fine, right? I can stop at Mutton Island, I can explore the island a little, and I can try and pick up stuff. This is a fairly common storylet about someone who's trying to tell you a terrifying story, increases your terror if you accept it. But it gives you a tale of terror, which is usable in various places. And if you turn it back on him, which I was tempted to do, that consumes a tale of terror and a Z story. So I figured, especially since I'm right near home, so terror isn't actually that big a problem. Why not just get that thing from him? When we dock in London, our terror is capped at 50, so we'll be fine. No worries. And so at this point I'm like, hey, actually, you know, when we've got plenty of time here, we're so close to London, why go back straight away? Why not progress things a little bit? So why not head just that little bit further and head up to low Barnett? So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, kind of consider going back to London. But as I said, like, we're halfway through that, like, first half of the hunger bar. Worst case scenario, the crew gets a little hungry. It's not going to cause too much trouble. Haven't even had the starving storylet pop up. So we'll head down to Lower Barnett. We'll talk to them. Potentially we could even go see the sisters again. Hey, they give us a meal, so that's kind of... This is where I tend to push Fallen London a little bit more than I maybe should, but I got the time. It'll be fine. So talking low Barnett, it's like, hey, I can trade stories with the congregation because I've been to more underwater ports, and they're ports that I've been to before. So the first time I go to any given port, I kind of want to make sure that I sell that port report to the Admiralty so I get the achievement. But you know, I can definitely use up my rack port report because I've been there before. And here we go, tell another tale. This, you know, talk about rack it being a little bit more successful than it actually is, given that it's assembled from sunken ships. And the tall tale we tell is basically that they're so successful that the ships are piled up almost, they've broken the surface and they're starting to move up towards the roof and attack air traffic. So having finished at Lower Barnett, it's time to head back to London. I guess I did decide to skip Hunter's Keep. I probably could have made it, but I decided not to risk it. So here we are. Maybe it was my fuel actually that caused that worry, because I'm running pretty low on that as well. So got the hunger storylet's about to trigger down the bottom right, and now I've got a little bit more fuel. The preview, by the way, when I'm looking at this is lower resolution, so it's harder for me to be sure of what some of the interface elements say. But I do have mouths to feed, but I kind of figure I can handle it when we get back home. So I don't quite know why I apparently can't just declare all control goods here. I think there's a fee associated with it, so I've got to put something aside or select that option, but I don't think I have anything. But maybe I did, and now it's just time to grab all of the stories again in London because we've made it back. We can sell off our we can get a tattoo, which in fact it's finally time to get the Gambit, increase my pages. I always want to increase my pages. I'm probably a little bit too obsessed with doing that, frankly, because it's probably not that important a stat. But with that, I've got my tattoo, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you spending the time and effort watching the videos I make. If you'd like to watch more, on the left there should be another video from this playlist. On the right there will be whatever YouTube recommends, and in the center there is a convenient subscribe button just in case you need it.